This is Leonardo, and today is his annual checkup, or maybe I should say tune-up.
A little of both.
It's kind of both. It's a checkup and a tune-up, yeah.
You see, Leonardo is a robot, but the engineer who designed him thinks of him as much more than a machine.
Do we have the tongue again? Where's Jesse? Jesse?
Cynthia Brazil thinks of him as a creature.
And is the nose wrinkled? It's ready to go. Okay, cool.
That's because when Leonardo's been put back together and has his fur coat on, he's what you call a sociable robot.
Hello, Leo. Can you hear me?
A new breed of robot that Cynthia and her students are designing in the Robotic Life Lab at MIT.
This is the most amazing place you could imagine.
It's like working in Santa's workshop. Leo, this is Elmo. Can you find Elmo?
Cynthia's goal is to make robots that aren't just smart, but that can learn the way people do.
Good, Leo.
Communicate the way people do. Even become our friends.
What does it really mean to design a robot that understands and interacts and treats people as people?
If anyone can answer this question, it'll be Cynthia Brazil.
She's fearless, so she tries anything, and she just seems to have no concern whatsoever that it might fail. She just does it, and I can't think of any cases where it actually has failed.
If you look at the field of robotics today, you can say robots have been in the deepest oceans, they've been to Mars, they've been in all these places, but they're just now starting to come into your living room. Your living room is the final frontier for robots.
That's because the living room is not an easy place for a robot to exist. After all, robotic vacuums like this one that are supposed to clean your house by themselves can't tell the difference between a chair leg and a human leg.
Oh, is it going to go under the chair?
They're just things to avoid, or in this case, escape from. But for robots to become more than just tools, for them to become our partners, as Cynthia hopes, they need the same social skills as people, including emotion.
Yeah. Through our evolution, we're so specialized for social interaction. So if you can really design robots that can interact with people in this very natural interpersonal way, I think that would be great. You wouldn't have to have people read manuals in order to operate them. They'll be able to just interact with the robot the way that they would want to, which we think will be as people interact with other living things.
But wait a minute.
I've just about had enough of you.
Robots with emotion? Isn't that just something from the movies?
Scrap pile.
In Cynthia's case, that's exactly where it started.
I was about 10 years old and I saw the first Star Wars movie.
Excuse me, sir, but that R2 unit is in prime condition. A real bargain.
You saw R2-D2 and C-3PO and it's like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Now, don't you forget this.
R2-D2 and C-3PO were really kind of your sidekicks. They were really kind of your friends.
That was really sort of the beginning of her inspiration to do what she does now.
The daughter of two scientists, Cynthia had robots on the brain. And in third grade in Livermore, California, she wrote a story that was strangely prophetic.
I talked about this robot that stole Huckleberry Pies. That apparently was a robot that was created by the Klingon Empire. The last sentence, I think, was perhaps the most salient, which is, and its feelings run on a computer. So, I mean, even then, it was just kind of a given for me that robots would have emotions and feelings.
Her teacher's only comment, proofread next time. Cynthia's passion for robots soon switched to sports.
She was actually a fairly accomplished tennis player, soccer, and all these things growing up. That took me by surprise. I hadn't really expected that she was such a jock. I would have expected maybe more of an egghead.
Well, she did wind up at MIT, where she studied electrical engineering and computer science with Rodney Brooks, who was designing robots inspired by living, breathing creatures.
Cynthia came to my lab just a little while after we'd started building robots based on insects.
And I thought, if we are ever going to see those robots that we saw in Star Wars in the real world, it's going to start in a place like this.
With Brooks, she built a robotic bug named Attila, and then moved up the food chain to working on a humanoid robot called Cog, who was strangely adept at playing with slinkies.
When we first thought about Cog, we thought about the all-intelligent robot that was going to be able to manipulate the world and do things. We weren't thinking about how it was really going to interact with people.
But Cynthia wanted to make a robot you can relate to, A robot that would learn because people would want to teach it.
She has this vision of robots. You build them starting with the social interaction, and you build the intelligence out from that.
Cynthia came up with the phrase, appliance or friend.
But how do you make a robot that's more friend than appliance? Long before Cynthia had her own kids, Ryan and Nathan, she hit on an idea.
Nice, sweetie.
What if you could get people to relate to a robot in the same way a parent relates to a child?
If you look at the way an adult interacts with an infant or a very young child, you fundamentally have this highly sophisticated being interacting with an immature version of it. But yet you could still have a very genuine interaction. So we leverage that in building these robots that are also very youthful in their nature. It's a little trickier with the robots because the robots, of course, don't have these wonderful little brains and bodies that infants have. You know, it's a sort of very low-pass kind of crude approximation of that.
Beginning in the late 1990s, Cynthia rolled up her sleeves and got out the toolkit to build a new kind of robot based on theories of child development.
She's willing to have way out ideas and pursue them. At the same time, she will delve into any technology to put all the pieces together to make it happen.
What she came up with was a robotic head named Kismet, with baby-like features such as prominent eyes to draw people into a social relationship.
You're such a cute little robot. No.
She programmed Kismet to analyze the emotional intent of the person speaking to it, based on the pitch and intensity of their voice.
No.
Then, all on its own, Kismet computed the right emotional response, which it expressed in its face, posture, and voice.
People very quickly would become enamored and attached to the robot, but you almost can't help it because it was really adorable.
I think we got something going on here. You and me.
Cynthia managed to get this being with a presence. Before Cynthia's work with Kismet, the question was, how does the robot react to the world? What Cynthia brought was, how do people react to the robot?
Overnight, Kismet and Cynthia were superstars. The name Kismet means fate in Turkish. And around this time, Cynthia sent a fateful email to someone she had met a few years before.
And the email is basically, hi, it's Cynthia, do you remember me? Which I thought was kind of a funny thing, so of course I remembered her.
Cynthia and Bobby were eventually married, but not before Hollywood called. Steven Spielberg was just finishing the movie AI, a futuristic tale about the day scientists would program robots with the ultimate human emotion.
Tell me, what is love?
I met Steven Spielberg and gave him a little primer on AI and met Stan.
Stan was Stan Winston, legendary creator of movie creatures like the robots in Terminator. He had made all the robots for AI, including a bear that befriends humans and has emotions.
His name's Teddy.
I told Stan that we should build Teddy, but we should really build Teddy.
I am not a toy.
The result of their collaboration was the robot called Leonardo.
Of course, it's after Leonardo da Vinci, not Leonardo DiCaprio, which some people ask.
It's $1 million creature with a body by Stan and brains by Cynthia. Stan Winston hopes to use sociable robots in movies someday. But for now, Cynthia and her students are using Leonardo to explore how robots can learn and communicate with people in everyday situations.
Leo, this is Cookie Monster. Leo, can you find Cookie Monster?
To create a lifelike face-to-face interaction with people, software allows Leo to track the head of the person speaking to him. Then he stores the name and color and shape of the object in his memory.
Very good, Leo. Leo, this is Elmo. Can you find Elmo?
Leo can also use what he learns to think for himself. When Matt tries to trick him,
can you find Elmo?
Leo catches on quickly, responding with a shrug and even a puzzled look. Cynthia believes this kind of natural communication between people and machines is essential for robots to become part of our daily lives.
Cynthia is one of the best people in the world in terms of human-robot interaction, and really understanding that it's much more than just a person pressing buttons on a machine, but really having the machine be engaging and improving that overall interaction.
The team's latest robot is a teddy bear called the Huggable. Inspired by pet therapy, It may one day act as a companion for kids in the hospital, as well as assist their caregivers.
Nice and silky smooth.
With skin that's sensitive to touch and temperature, it's designed for physical, full-body interaction with humans.
This guy has a motion classifier in him, which means he knows how he's being moved. So I can do some stuff like bouncing him, and you can see on the screen how he's responding. Pretty psyched about that. He can also respond to, if I want to be kind of evil, maybe some shaking. And I made him sad. That was mean. When he's used in hospitals, if a kid were to shake him like I just did, the nurses station could get a little message saying, you may want to check in on room 44. And then the last thing this guy will do is if I put him down, he knows he's not moving anymore. And so he's going to respond by saying goodbye. Yep, bye-bye.
Ooh, you got some fancy moves there.
But will we ever have an interaction with a robot that's as genuine as this? And if so, would that be a good thing?
I really didn't believe that we would have better living with robots. That robots could really be technology that enhanced and complemented our lives. Like, I mean, the way that, same reason we create any other technology. I certainly wouldn't be doing it.
Maybe Nathan and Ryan could be among the first kids to grow up with robots that go beyond just the notion of a vacuum cleaner, but actually socially and emotionally engaging and interactive robots would be pretty cool.
I do think in time, people will have sort of relationships with certain kinds of robots, not every robot, but certain kinds of robots where they might feel that it is a sort of friendship that is going to be of a robot humankind.